The Cleveland Browns held a voluntary off-season workout, and the word voluntary is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this story. Every single player on that roster had a clear, binary choice in front of them: show up and compete for a spot, or stay home and let the absence speak for itself. There was no middle ground, no gray area. Either you were in Cleveland with your cleats on, or you were sending a message to the coaching staff, to the front office, and to every teammate who did make the trip. The message that came back from 2 of the 3 quarterbacks on this roster was deafening in its silence. Shedeur Sanders was there. Arm warm, cleats laced, ready to work. Deshaun Watson? Gone. Dillon Gabriel? Nowhere to be found, not a single trace of him in Cleveland. And then the Browns went ahead and posted about this workout on their official social media accounts, but here is the part that should have every NFL analyst talking: they only featured one quarterback in that content. Just one. Not Watson. Not Gabriel. Shedeur Sanders stood there alone, representing the entire quarterback room by himself on the Browns' official platform. Before anyone dismisses this as a minor detail, understand what it actually means when an NFL team selects what to post from a voluntary off-season session. These organizations have entire social media departments, content teams, and communications staff making deliberate decisions about what gets published and what does not. They are choosing who to highlight. They are choosing who to present as the face of this competition heading into the 2026 season. And with all of those choices available to them, the Cleveland Browns chose Shedeur Sanders, exclusively. Here is what makes that choice even more significant. Last year, when Dillon Gabriel showed up to a similar voluntary session, the Browns posted him. They gave him public recognition. They acknowledged his presence on their platform. So the organization has demonstrated clearly that they know how to show appreciation when a quarterback puts in voluntary work. This year, Gabriel is completely invisible on their feed. Watson does not even register. The only quarterback receiving any public acknowledgement from the Browns organization right now is Shedeur Sanders, and that is not an accident. Some will argue the Browns mentioned they might not post everyone who attended. That point does not hold up under scrutiny. If Deshaun Watson, the highest-paid quarterback on this roster, a player whose entire narrative this offseason has been built around his return from injury, had been out on that field grinding, sweating, and competing, the Browns' content team would have had every incentive to show the fanbase their franchise investment was healthy and ready. The absence of Watson and Gabriel from that post is the actual story. The Browns sent 2 messages simultaneously. Message 1, Shedeur Sanders is the quarterback commanding the organization's attention heading into 2026. Message 2, Watson and Gabriel are already falling behind before the competition has even officially started. Now look at who actually showed up alongside Sanders, because this was not a small gathering. Linebackers Carson Steele and Quincy Williams made the trip. Quan Jenkins was present. Tight end Blake Whiteheart came through. New offensive lineman Zion Johnson showed up immediately, signaling his readiness to compete for a roster spot. Wide receivers including Gage and Julian Okwara were there. Jerry Jeudy came through, and that detail matters enormously because Jeudy is a veteran receiver who had absolutely no obligation to be there. He made a deliberate choice to show up, and that choice tells you something about a player who knows his career needs a significant bounce-back moment and understands that building chemistry with his quarterback starts now, not in August. Offensive linemen KJ Leon and Mason Graham were present. Defensive end Isaiah McGuire pulled up. Tight end Harold Fanine Jr. was in the building. Even the specialists made the trip. Punter Corey Bojorquez and kicker Anders Carlson both attended. This was a substantial portion of the Browns roster choosing to invest their time in Cleveland when they could have been anywhere else. And every single one of those players spent that session building a connection with Shedeur Sanders, not with Watson, not with Gabriel, with Sanders. Football at the highest level runs on trust and familiarity that develops long before week 1. When players attend optional workouts, they are not just accumulating individual reps, they are learning timing with specific receivers. They are developing the invisible chemistry between a quarterback and his offensive weapons that determines whether a third down conversion happens or stalls. Shedeur Sanders spent that session throwing routes with Jerry Jeudy, getting familiar with his tight ends, and establishing rhythm with an offense that will need that foundation when the regular season arrives. Watson and Gabriel sat somewhere else and watched all of that chemistry develop without them. Every single rep Sanders took was a rep his 2 competitors will never recover. The Dillon Gabriel situation specifically requires a direct examination, because it is moving beyond simple absence into genuinely puzzling territory. Reports indicate Gabriel has not even been spotted in Cleveland. Word circulating around the league suggests he may still be in Hawaii, completely disconnected from the team and everything happening in Ohio right now. And alongside those reports come the trade whispers, not speculation fabricated from nothing, but legitimate questions from people inside the NFL about whether a deal is coming. Consider the Browns' perspective on this. They drafted Gabriel to compete and develop at the quarterback position. He received starts last season. The team has sufficient film, sufficient information, and a clear picture of what Gabriel represents as an NFL quarterback at this stage of his development. If his level of engagement during this offseason reflects his actual commitment to winning this starting job, the front office has to be calculating whether his trade value still justifies holding on to him or whether moving him now makes more organizational sense. This is not a confirmation that a trade is imminent. But the timeline matters here. If there is no concrete update on Gabriel's status, no confirmed appearance in Cleveland, and no signal of genuine engagement within the next 2 weeks, the trade conversation moves from league whispers into mainstream NFL discussion. Because at the core of this situation is a straightforward question: this is a starting quarterback job in the National Football League, the opportunity every young quarterback at every level of football works toward their entire career, and Dillon Gabriel is choosing to be somewhere other than Cleveland during voluntary sessions. That behavioral data point is impossible for the Browns front office to ignore. Compare that directly to Shedeur Sanders, who did not treat a voluntary session as optional even though the entire premise of the workout was exactly that, optional. For Sanders, there was no category of voluntary when there is a starting job available. That competitive orientation, that relentless and consistent presence, is precisely what separates quarterbacks who become NFL starters from those who spend their careers in competition limbo. Deshaun Watson entered the 2024 season and suffered a torn Achilles, one of the most physically and mentally difficult injuries a professional athlete can endure, and particularly challenging for a quarterback whose mobility has been a central component of his game. He missed the entire 2025 campaign in recovery. Throughout this offseason, Watson's social media has featured workout clips, his camp has circulated reports about his health, and the message coming from his side has consistently been that he is 100% healthy and prepared to compete for the starting position. That stated commitment and the decision to skip a team voluntary session exist in direct contradiction to each other. You cannot publish workout footage on social media and simultaneously miss an opportunity to work alongside teammates and demonstrate your health and readiness to the coaching staff in person. Those two actions send completely opposite signals, and the coaching staff receives both of them. Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, is observing everything happening this offseason. Kevin Stefanski is watching every attendance decision, every presence or absence, every signal being sent by each quarterback on this roster. The reality of Watson's situation in Cleveland is that the era where his name alone commanded a starting position has ended. That period closed with the accumulated weight of injuries, the seasons lost, and the wins that never came. What matters in the 2026 quarterback competition is performance and presence today, not reputation from several years ago. Watson and Gabriel had a clear opportunity to transform this into the most genuinely competitive quarterback battle the NFL had seen heading into a season. Instead, they allowed Shedeur Sanders to accumulate advantages, in chemistry, in organizational standing, in coaching staff confidence, that compound with every passing week of the offseason. The broader context of this quarterback situation connects to a franchise pattern that Browns fans understand better than anyone. The Cleveland quarterback carousel has been spinning for the better part of 2 decades. Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum, Tyrod Taylor, and Watson's injury-disrupted tenure have all passed through. The fan base has been waiting for a quarterback to walk through that door and simply stay, to become the consistent answer rather than the next question. The early evidence from this offseason suggests Shedeur Sanders may represent that answer. Sanders arrived in the NFL as one of the most technically developed quarterbacks in recent draft history. His ball placement, pre-snap reading ability, and capacity to process through progressions are skills that teams typically spend multiple developmental years trying to install. He came into Cleveland already equipped with them. The Browns roster around him has genuine pieces: Jerry Jeudy at receiver, Zion Johnson adding to the offensive line, Mason Graham anchoring the defense. The infrastructure for a competitive team exists. The quarterback question, which has defined this franchise for so long, now has a candidate who is demonstrating through action rather than words that he intends to be the answer. If this quarterback competition continues developing along the trajectory these early offseason signals are establishing, Shedeur Sanders will be the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback when Week 1 of the 2026 NFL season arrives. And when that announcement comes, it will not arrive as a surprise to anyone paying attention to this offseason. Sanders communicated exactly what he is made of by showing up on a field in Cleveland while his competition stayed home. He communicated it without a single press conference statement, without a social media post, without any external performance, just by being present when presence was the entire test. If you believe Shedeur Sanders is already the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback based on everything unfolding right now, drop your take in the comments below. Do you think Watson and Gabriel have effectively already lost this battle, or can they overcome this early offseason deficit when training camp opens? Every angle of this story will be covered as it continues to develop, and this quarterback situation in Cleveland is only going to become a bigger NFL narrative as the 2026 season gets closer. Subscribe to stay current on every update, every development, and every breakdown as the Browns quarterback competition moves forward. Smash the like button if this breakdown gave you the full picture of what is actually happening in Cleveland right now.